I honestly look back a lot more than I look forward for inspiration. I just feel very inspired by the unmanicured approach to photography, to art, to fashion that I feel like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s had. I don't feel super inspired by more modern day stuff. It's definitely more of a nostalgia thing for me.
Hi, I'm George, the co-founder of Bluethumb, and I'm joined by my colleague Amy. Welcome to the Art in My Home podcast.
We uncover the surprising stories from the art collections of unexpected guests.
Today's guest is Cait Emma Burke, senior producer at Shameless Media. She's the former editor of Fashion Journal and a freelance writer whose work has been featured in Harper's Bazaar, ID Magazine, Cosmopolitan, and many more. So, Cait, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Cait. We're very excited to have you here today. We like to start on the art questions first. So we thought we might just dive straight into you telling us a bit about your house, how have you decorated it, where does art fit into your home, and any of your favourite pieces that you might have in it.
Yeah, I first and foremost love colour. I've always been a colour person, which you can probably see.
Yeah.
I am very drawn to having colour in my home. My favourite piece is probably by Al Burgess, who's a Australian artist and does sort of like pastel-y, like lots of like lavenders and oranges and gorgeous colour combination artworks. And there's often like little mise-en-scenes with like vases and flowers, and yeah, they're just really cute. So that is in my bedroom. That's probably like my favourite thing that I own. In terms of like how I decorate my house, I don't go overboard. I don't have heaps of artwork because I live in a share house.
Sure.
So anyone that lives in a share house will know you can't just
Diplomacy.
go hard in the way that like you might if it was your own house. But yeah, I've got downstairs, I've got two pieces that I really love. One's by a Melbourne photographer, Claudia, and she does a lot of these like out of focus nature photos. So it'd be like a leaf and a flower, but sort of blurry. It's just, you know, obviously it's a framed print, but when I look at it, it almost looks like you're like looking through a window. It's really gorgeous. But yeah, I've noticed I'm drawn to lots of yellows, oranges, purples, pinks art-wise, and I always have been. So a few of the pieces I own have those colours. And also, I mean, art is expensive, so I often go for prints over like a painting.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's a very appropriate artwork behind you if you're watching on video.
Oh, yeah. Literally perfect. Yeah. It kind of works with my top.
It does
too.
actually. Great. That was planned.
Yeah, we planned it. Yeah, obviously.
That Claudia Lewis photo, so from looking at it, it looks like an abstract painting almost to me. It's cool. So that's a flower, and so I guess if you go in, you can kind of see some detail.
Yeah, you can see, and it's sort of it's quite blurry though. But I like that it's like very like as you say, it almost looks like an abstract painting or
something through a rainy window.
Or like a memory or a dream, maybe.
How did you come across Claudia's work?
I've always lived with people that are either artists or work adjacent to art, design, fashion in that area. So I've always been surrounded by people with really good taste. And I think that's really shaped my taste as well. But my old housemate, Geneva, she had one of Claudia Lewis's works like on her mantelpiece. And I always just looked at it and was like, I love it. I always want to look at it for a long time, which I feel like is a good sign. Yeah, and, you know, it shows that you would want it somewhere else in your house. So yeah, I ended up buying one inspired by that.
Yeah, the connection, like you've lived with it, you've grown with it, and you're like, oh, I really connect with this.
Exactly.
And if it leaves you, you'll be like, oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice that you are collecting in a share house because for most of my life I lived in share houses and I could never be bothered getting approval to put nails in the walls.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you need approval anymore.
I think it's changed,
Has it?
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to me. Okay, fantastic.
Same with pets. You can have like a dog or a cat now, or whatever you want, I guess. As long as it's illegal.
The whole thing has changed my life. Because I mean, look, it's not that hard to patch a hole, really.
It's not. But yeah.
I like that you know the colours you like.
Yeah. Oh my God, big time. Because I worked in fashion for so long, I think. I still work in fashion, so in a different way. But I think when you work in fashion, you really know your style and what you do like and don't like and what colours enhance your outfits and your colouring and
Yeah. So it's sort of having that job where you're surrounded by aesthetics and thinking
clothing
about it.
all day. Yeah. And looking at labels and trying to distinguish like what is it about that label that is special or that I'm drawn to. And I think as well, working in fashion, it's very easy to get swept up in trends and, you know, like I should be wearing this and I should be wearing that, or everyone's liking this thing, so I should like this thing. So I think that's why art and music and film and all these other areas, you need to really like hone what you like in those areas to also understand fashion more. I see them all as like this big symbiotic thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that if you were to take the two pieces of yours and put them in the same room, they would work really beautifully
That's what
together.
I like too. Yeah.
Like those orange tones, like so pretty.
Yeah, I've thought about that because I've thought if I end up living alone at some point, they'll be in the same room,
For sure,
those two pieces.
for sure.
Yeah.
And easy to move with as well. That's the
Yes.
other thing too.
Exactly.
The other one we did a deep dive on is you've got a food for everyone print.
Yes.
Which I wasn't fully across it. And then I was on the website this morning like overwhelmed because I loved it so much.
So
I
many
love the
cool
collaboration idea.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Food for Everyone, I think this print was originally bought by another housemate years ago, and then we got it framed, and then when she moved out I was like, I'm buying it because
Yeah.
I love it. But I first learned about Food for Everything through friends, I think, because it's like this art initiative that helps feed people in need. So I think it's like every print, the money goes towards a good cause, and they have a lot of cool local artists that do these prints. They're often food-based, obviously. I think they're always food-based. Yeah, and I just always have been drawn to them. I love the use of colour. I like the ethos. I like the aesthetic.
It's a fantastic, like a genius idea, really.
Yeah, I think Libby Haynes.
Yes, you
if
did.
you know Libby Haynes, she did one recently.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, I was having a look at that one earlier.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of Libby. I follow
Yeah,
her
me
Instagram.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
she's cool. I love her stuff. I love the food, the martini glass,
yeah.
it's cool.
I can't
yeah.
have any in my house because I would just be smashing cocktails.
Yeah, true. You'd be too inspired in the wrong way. Yeah.
But maybe this looks like a salad, so I should.
Yeah. It's inspiring to be healthy. Yeah.
The carrots.
Exactly.
What is?
Yeah.
Do you know what this dish is? Because it's meant to be represent the whole dish, isn't it?
I can't even remember off the top
Okay.
of my head.
Yeah.
I should.
I can see carrots.
I
and-
think there's an array of vegetables of
Yeah.
some sort. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, the first I'd seen of it was recently, but I noticed they've done a collab with Ken Doan, him doing, I guess, a dish.
Yeah,
a
I think I
dish
saw
and-
that. Yeah. And maybe
Fan.
I feel like that local artist, local chef, Julia
Ostro?
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe Julia Ostro. I feel like they did something with her potentially. Yeah. Anyway.
fun.
Yeah, there's an obvious through line of like food and art, I guess. Especially at the
100%.
moment, it feels like there's a real
Oh, absolutely.
fusion.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
we're actually seeing that on our data. We're looking at it more broadly recently. Are there any sort of trends
Yeah.
of themes that are selling more? And this year, definitely food art is
Yeah.
broadly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe with like the cost of living crisis, food has become more aspirational. I mean, that's kind of, but like maybe like food is expensive, more expensive than
okay,
ever.
yeah.
Maybe there's something aspirational about having a painting of like beautiful vegetables that are.
A good tablescape always sells.
Yeah.
You know? So, you could put that in your dining room.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love a tablescape of like, a nice summer entree.
Oh yeah.
It'd be sort of an Italianate
Oh,
kind of
the
setting
Italian
or something.
vibes. Oh,
that's-
absolutely.
yeah, just, I don't know.
But also
Caprese salad
Yes.
or something.
Yeah, no,
That's what I want,
exactly.
yeah.
Perfect.
But then also being around that in the middle of winter and you're like looking at it and you're like, oh,
yeah.
in Melbourne. I could push through. I also want to talk about your yellow
Yeah.
artwork. Well, I'm really impressed by the find, to be
Yeah.
honest. Do you want to tell us the story around that one?
So my housemate came home one day and she was like, I found this yellow painting on the side of the road. Like, like in Melbourne, people drop
Put it
stuff
out, yeah.
outside their house and it's like, it's a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know, like if you guys will like it. But we'd had another housemate move out and we needed something for this like spot in the stairwell. And I've always loved yellow. Like I really, really love the colour yellow, especially like a marigold yellow. Something very like warm and like honey-like to me about it. When I like look at it, it makes me feel warm. And this painting was the exact yellow that I like, that like marigold sort of colour. And we put it up and we're all like, wait, this is so plain and random, but it just looks like something that, like in a weird way, it looks like it's expensive, even though it doesn't, maybe in the photo, but like in person, when you look at it, you're like looking out for some point of interest, but there isn't any. but it makes you look at it anyway, so it is interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I just like the colour.
It's effective in its simplicity, but
Yeah.
also the amount of pigment. This yellow is so yellow,
Yes.
like so vibrant, and
Yeah.
it just kind of, I think it'd be nice to like walk, especially where you've put it on the staircase. Like you're walking
Exactly.
past it all the time. Yellow's got that like serotonin where you're like, oh, so happy, you know?
Yeah, it actually does affect your mood. Like
Yeah.
I feel happy walking up. Past it.
That's
yeah.
good. That's good.
Is marigold a deeper yellow?
Yeah, it's like a orangey yellow
Orange, yeah,
almost.
cool.
I would
but
call
like,
that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
have no idea.
I think I'm right. Yeah, I don't know.
I would say that's spot on, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I like that.
Sweet. And there's an interesting one you sent through from Maya Irving. She's a Melbourne artist, I think.
Yeah, Melbourne artist. Again, a housemate's one. She got this really recently. I actually know Maya through, I've done like events before. So I also write about dating, which is a side note. And I've run events with dating apps before, and we've done like immersive sort of experiences. And one of those experiences was like having Maya at this dating event, and she is naked and she paints her body and a canvas at the same time.
Wow.
Which sounds kind of random explaining it now, but it was really fun at the time. It was like mingling, this like live artwork thing. Anyway, I knew about her from this event, and I was always like, just thought she was super cool, and like how many people are naked and paint a canvas at the same time. I just
Yeah.
think that's
Very little, yeah.
sick.
Yeah.
Always liked her stuff. And then my housemate went to like an exhibition or something the other night and brought home this artwork, and immediately I was like, oh my God, it looks like oysters. Like it reminds me of oysters, but like an abstract of oysters. And somehow I just am really drawn to it. So she's going to hang it up above her bed, which means that every time I walk past like the front door, her room's right there. She always has her door open. I'll always see it. So yeah, I'm excited for her to hang it. Right now it's just sitting on the radiator waiting. But yeah.
Who was it was saying Yves Klein painted with his body too?
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, Nikita came on an earlier pod, and so those blue paintings that he did, you know, they're really
like the
textured.
Yves Klein blue.
Yeah.
Oh.
A lot of them were sort of him with his body on
Really?
the paint. Yeah.
That is
Wow.
insane.
Was he naked or was he not naked?
I don't know.
Okay, I need to find out. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
wow.
How did the event go with? So she was live painting.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, side note, obviously this isn't about dating, but I think that a lot of people that are single in Melbourne and Australia and the world are just looking for like ways to meet in person. So that's what we were trying to facilitate.
Absolutely.
But it was good. It's good to have something to talk about when you're in a room and you're like mingling with other potential single people. Not that I was doing that because I was facilitating. And I think having something to talk about that's like interactive, that's out of the box, that's cool. It also makes nudity not just a sexual thing. It's an artistic thing, and the naked form is beautiful, and it doesn't have to be this like over-sexualized thing. It can be art, I guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Would have been fascinating though, actually, like a live painting.
Yeah, it was cool. Maybe I'll get it at my wedding or like some type
Well, yeah.
my next big thing
Wouldn't
that
that be
happens to
so
me.
cool? Like, here, I just got married, and by the way, at the reception.
I'm not
whatever
even
new
engaged.
year-
I'm single. I don't know why I said wedding.
Doesn't matter.
Just jumping in here.
My like next birthday party. Let's just get
my
one.
my 40th.
Yeah.
I do agree. It'd be better than a cover band.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has some videos on her Insta of her sort of doing that, and
So
it looks
cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, wicked.
Whether you're a seasoned collector or just starting out, find pieces you connect with at bluethumb.com.au. Unlock the power of art and turn your house into a home.
Now, I really want to talk about podcasting.
Yeah. Of
Just because I'm
course.
interested.
Yeah.
But yeah, Amy, stop me if I rattle on to them.
Well, it's because we're professional podcasters. So
Yeah.
George just wants to talk to other professionals about it.
I love it. I love it so much.
So, yeah, your job is senior producer at
Yeah.
Shameless, which is one of the most popular podcast networks now in Australia, and
Yeah.
it obviously has their sort of flagship bust. Can you just tell us about how that's going? You've been there a few months, you know?
Yeah, I've been there for 2.5 months,
Yep.
almost 3. I love it. It's amazing. I've been obsessed with Shameless for years and years, and I always said, like, anyone that knew me well always knew that I wanted to be in podcasting. They always knew that, like, I wanted to somehow make that move. It's like a move to the side almost in terms of like media, working in editorial, and then podcasting is like the same kind of thing. It's just a different way of approaching it. It's all content is what I'm getting at. But I've been there for 3 months, loving it in terms of learning the ropes of producing. There are definite crossovers with being an editor. Like you've got to be very organized, you've got to be very detail oriented, you've got to be very creative, you've got to have a lot of good ideas. And yeah, there's definitely also things that are very different and more technical kind of things. And being in the studio was like definitely getting my head around like a whole host of new things.
I had a follow-up to ask about stylish because that sort of seems absolutely bang on for your experience and interest. So that's what you produce. And,
yes. Yeah.
Did you consider the stylish hosting role as well?
Well, so they'd already got the host.
Okay.
So Stylish came out earlier this year, so they already had the lineup solidified.
Yep.
I've filled in once on the podcast because I also really do love hosting and talking. So yeah, I definitely am keen to, like, as I progress in the company, hopefully eventually expand into more hosting down the line. But right now I'm learning the ropes of producing, filling in whenever they need anyone. And I think that being a good producer will make me a better host as well eventually down the line.
For sure.
Yeah.
How have you found the transition from like writing to like producing and podcasting going?
It's interesting. I mean, you're still writing, you're just writing in a different way.
Sure.
When I started, I didn't know this before I started podcasting, but I always wondered, like, how do people structure them? Like, what is there a
How
script?
do people structure them?
Yeah, I can tell you. Yeah. You guys are like, okay. Taking notes. Gonna have a meeting right after this. It varies a lot is the answer, but from what I've deduced from Shameless, a lot of the time it's like a bare bones run sheet.
Sure.
Their whole policy is the less scripted, the better. You want to get it as close to organic conversation, as close to natural sounding convo as you possibly can. So with something like Stylish, because that's still a really new podcast, we are scripting more. It's like a framework, basically, is the way I think about it. It's like a loose scripted framework. So there's an intro and it has like who's saying what in the intro, and I do bare bone bullet points for like introducing each segment, and then they sort of read that out but also make it their own, and then I come up with questions that they should be thinking about or asking each other, and then they sort of bounce off each other and they have to bring their own bullet points as well. So they're ahead of time reading what I've researched and written, responding to it, leaving notes, and then when they go in, there's the framework and then there's organic convo that comes from the framework, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you have to be able to channel them?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about it, and this has been the interesting thing as a writer, I'm so used to like my personality being a big part of my writing.
Sure.
But with scripting like this, you have to be very bare bones. Like you don't want to be too emotive. You don't want to be too like biased. So no, I don't want to be sounding like them. I want to be presenting like the tone of Stylish, but it's like very just like, here is the information. And then the women bring their personality through the way that they're responding to the topic at hand. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, for sure. I'd never thought about this, but it is so organic and so natural. All the podcasts always come across that way.
And some of them, like when you've been doing it together for years, like Zara and Michelle,
of course,
as far as I know, they're a lot more freeform.
Yes.
Unless they're doing like a scandal episode or they're doing like an episode that's like highly scripted and structured. I think they will have their like talking points and like we're going to talk about these topics, but it's a lot more flowy. But I think when people don't know each other as well or they haven't been hosting together for a long time, you kind of need a bit more of a structure to get it sort of flowing in the way you want.
Yeah,
is what I would say.
No, for sure.
I mean, you're talking to someone that's only been doing this for 3 months.
No, but it makes sense as well. Like the chemistry that Zara and Michelle have, and they've been doing it for so long. New people aren't just going to come in and have that. So
it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're goals though.
Any other podcasts?
Yeah, any other.
How do you make a podcast popular? No.
No.
The $1 million question.
I
mean, I think that obviously working for a company like Shameless, you're really lucky because they already have such an engaged audience on socials and on other podcasts. So I think when you have that, it's easier to make something else popular because you can promote it on these huge platforms that you already have. And I think you already have listener trust, that like the listener has learnt to trust your company's output, which is really valuable and means that they're more likely to listen to another product that you create. I mean, I think having a point of difference is obviously like anything in content. Like, what is your USP? What are you wanting to say? What are you wanting to convey with what you're creating? Shameless puts a lot of time into like really thinking about the product before it comes out, long before my time. I know that they were doing like audience sort of surveys and finding out like what would you want to hear about fashion-wise and beauty-wise and brand-wise. So I think there's a lot of really smart research that goes into creating something so that you know you're catering to like a gap in the market or what people want.
Yeah,
For sure.
For sure. And it feels like the hosts, sort of Zara and Michelle, have amazing chemistry. You know, when you have podcasts and feel like you're listening to your besties.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Oh, that's it.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Have you seen that meme? And it's like me listening to a podcast and it's someone like pointing to a poster.
yeah.
And
Me
I'm
and my
like,
besties.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, you've been a journalist for many, many years in this massive body of kind of writing. And a lot of it's been, we've already mentioned fashion, but a lot of it's been writing about dating.
Yeah.
Have you pitched to do a dating pod? Is that on the cards?
Right now I'm part-time and I'm producing, so I just want to like learn the ropes with that. But that is like what I would love to be doing for them. I think I've said in the past that I would mentioned maybe a little bit to them that I want to do something around dating. And I do think there's a real gap for a dating podcast.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the dream would be to do something like that with them. So
cool.
Fingers crossed, I guess. Watch this space.
TBC.
Yeah. TBC.
Absolutely. That's definitely a great idea.
Yeah.
While we're on Shameless and while I'm an art geek, I just wanted to quick ask about the art in the Shameless office because we've probably all seen it in the content and they have some beautiful work.
Yes.
So I just wanted to pin you down and ask you all about it. So could you tell us about some of the pieces that you guys have in your office?
Yeah, so I can only talk about a few of them because I actually don't know who the other people are.
Fair enough.
But I do know that the minute I walked in, I was like, I love the artwork here. Whoever curated it did a good job. And then I found out that it was Rhiannon Joyce, who's the head of business development. She did a lot of the curation of just the interiors of the office in general. And it's just so perfectly done. There's like great pops of colour. My favourite pieces are these beautiful abstracts. I think they're by Gel Bell. They're a Melbourne like sister duo, and they're these really big scale fluoro pink, fluoro orange, very like bright, bold colours, very abstract. I feel like there's also like a hibiscus flower somewhere in there because I always look at them and I'm like, I want to own one. I just want one in my house. Yeah. That's my favourite. I always say to my friends, I'm like, having good art around you when you're at work, it makes me feel so much more creatively inspired and enjoy being in that space. The other ones I honestly don't know. I have a feeling they got stuff from Sunday Salon.
I love Sunday Salon.
Yeah, I love Sunday Salon too. And I have a feeling that might be where they got some stuff from.
Sure.
Yeah.
George, are you familiar with Sunday Salon?
Yeah, I'm on their emails.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. She's got great like aesthetic.
Great
and taste.
eye. There's a lot of good artists that I like have sold their work there.
Yeah, cool.
Love.
I love recommendations for sort of blogs or accounts that I might not follow. Do you
Yeah.
have any fashion or art blogger accounts or even, I don't know, pods that you're sort of really into at the moment?
Yeah, I try to like not listen to a lot of other fashion podcasts.
Yeah.
I feel like that would probably throw me off, and I try to just stick with like what I'm naturally drawn to rather than seeing how another podcast does it. Instagram wise, Sunday Salon is a place that I look at a lot for like art inspiration. I really love, I mean these are Instagrams, but I really love Getty Image Club.
I'm not familiar with
know
that.
one.
So I actually haven't touched on this, but I love photography, and I love like photography from the 70s, 80s, especially when it's like pop culture related or anything like Studio 54, like that type of era I love. But Getty Image Club is images from like 90s, early 2000s, red carpets and just strange, not all just red carpets, but like interesting celebrity pairings. And I love that. There's just like a lot of interesting fashion on there as well. It's also interesting seeing how much less like manicured everything was. I don't know, I just really like it.
People looked more real back
People
then,
looked more
you know?
real. Yeah, they really
didn't all
did.
look the same.
And the fashion was, I just like less all the same, what's the word? Homogenous? Is that the word?
Yes.
Less, there was more like creativity and I don't know, something I love about that. What else? So Cecil Beaton is this like fashion photographer that when I was a kid, I went to an exhibition. I'm from Christchurch, New Zealand. I went to an exhibition at the gallery and that just fully like so inspired me and got me very into fashion photography. I just love a good portrait by a fashion photographer. That's like so up my alley. So I also really like Herb Ritts, if you know Herb Ritts, iconic fashion photographer.
Don't.
You should look at
Yeah,
his
oh,
work.
absolutely.
Yeah. I also like the fusion of like music, fashion, art all together. You can't have one without the other. Like they all really feed into each other. I love Robert Mapplethorpe, if you know Robert Mapplethorpe. Yeah. There's a photographer, Karen Sanderson, I think, who did a lot of Studio 54, like the iconic photo of Bianca Jagger on a white horse going into Studio 54.
Yes.
Stuff like that. So I honestly look back a lot more than I look forward for inspiration. I just feel very inspired by the unmanicured approach to photography, to art, to fashion that I feel like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s had. I don't feel super inspired by more modern day stuff. It's definitely more of a nostalgia thing for me.
And do you do sort of most of your discovery, I assume it's sort of most of it is probably online. Is it just serendipitous? Is it trolling around Instagram? How do you think you sort of...
Honestly, I think a really important thing for a creative is to do offline discovery. Any good creative that I know is going to art galleries, is seeing live music, is doing all these other things. I think that is really important. Honestly, I feel like I discovered a lot of the things that I'm into through just a general interest in pop culture and like magazines, art books, and film. Like film is like one of the big loves of my life alongside music. So I think just having a genuine interest and fascination in music and film means that I'm always discovering stuff. I always want to go to film festivals. I always want to go to Fringe Festival. I discover new artists and people and creatives that way and by like being genuinely immersed in the creative worlds in Melbourne. But aside from that, I guess talking to people, talking about their interests and learning from them. And yeah, I'm very fond of also just like a deep dive on Google and getting obsessed with someone or something and finding out everything there is to find out about it and then reading a book about it and then, you know, watching a movie. Can be a bit obsessive that way.
No.
I love it. Just a sponge.
Yeah, a sponge. I am truly a sponge. Like I spend a lot of time on Wikipedia.
I love a Wikipedia hole.
I love
You're just
Wikipedia.
Going deeper and deeper.
Oh my God, amazing.
The links to keep going.
Yeah, it really scratches an itch in my brain. Yeah.
Did you make it to Melbourne partly because of the culture here, or is that like...
Yeah. So I moved to Melbourne because in New Zealand there's just not a lot of media jobs. Like there's just not a lot of writing work, paid work anyway. So I was working in secondhand fashion in New Zealand for a long time. I was working for Recycle Boutique, which is now Goodbyes in Melbourne, like a big consignment store. So I was in their head office and always knew I wanted to be a writer. So yeah, moved to Melbourne because I got offered an internship at a music magazine. So I was a music journalist for quite a little while and yeah, managed to parlay the internship into a freelance role and obviously stayed in Melbourne because there were just more magazines, there was more writing work, there were more opportunities to do internships or to network or to build my freelance career. So yeah, I do feel very inspired by Melbourne though. It's such a creative city. There's so many brilliant fashion designers and artists and there's always so many fun events on, whether it's music or film or food or art. Yeah.
I'm the same. I came here 20 years ago for the music.
Are you a Kiwi?
No, Adelaide, other side.
Adelaide kind of is. I'm from Christchurch. Apparently, we're sister cities. Do you know that?
Yeah, I think I did know that. Yeah.
We're meant to be similar. Yeah.
We do have a lot of church. I'm from Adelaide as well. Churches, lots of churches.
Yeah. And green? Is it quite green? Yeah.
Pleasant and quiet.
Pleasant and quiet.
I do love it.
Yeah. No, I can see the relation.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So we've talked about potentially pitching your dating pod for Shameless. Watch this space. Any other kind of new things you're working on for next year? So what's cooking for you, Cait?
I mean, a lot of freelance writing. So I'm a regular contributor for Cosmopolitan. I've got a big story coming out with them next month. And then next year, just a bunch of different work for a bunch of different magazines, continuing work at Shameless. I think I'm going to be working for a beauty brand that I really admire as well, doing some editorial strategy and potentially some podcast adjacent stuff for them as well. But that's a bit TBC at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. I think I want to write a book.
Wow.
I mean, says every writer ever, but I really would like to write. I'm very inspired by Dolly Alderton, who's recently been in Melbourne. Really amazing author, and she writes about similar topics to me. So I'd love to write a essay collection, or I'd love to write a fiction book set in Melbourne about being single.
Oh, I love it.
Like, yeah, Carrie Bradshaw, if she lived in Melbourne and was jaded by dating apps.
Say no more. There's definitely a whole in the market for this.
I love that. I I can see that
I
being
would
turned
read. I
into
would
a
read. I would
Netflix
read.
series.
Okay,
too.
good. We've got one reader. Amazing.
I love it.
Fantastic. Well, you sound busy, and I love that.
Yeah,
We love doers.
Very busy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Cait.
Thanks,
It's been
Cait.
lovely to
You.
chat.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
If you love art and hearing collectors' stories, please share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to follow the show, rate and review to help make the pod more visible. We acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional owners of the land we're recording on, and we pay respects to elders past, present and emerging.